I don't know, man. This basketball slate, we'll get into it in a minute, but
Well, I think it's interesting. There's a couple of decent questions that need to be answered, even for the three games,
mhm.
and we could talk through all three games pretty in depth if we wanted to.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm happy to do that. I think it'd be nice to start with the foot. Well, I guess no, you know what? Let's start with that because we might get
doesn't
injury
matter to
related
me.
stuff.
Yeah,
Let me jump over to my basketball page then because
sure.
yeah, it's looking at this slate. I mean, it feels like the only way you can win is to do something, in my opinion, something really weird because I can't see any way of getting low enough ownership on these guys. Pretty much everybody, to be honest with you. Maybe for the big buy-in it'll work, but trying to find plays here and let's maybe the best way we can approach it is going game by game because
Yeah.
it's just really a strange slate. And I guess starting which one do you want to start with?
So
What
the
do you
first
got?
game, so Brooklyn, right?
I got Brooklyn first. Yeah, and I'm just looking
Well, I don't
through
know.
St. Matthew. Yeah,
So
yeah.
so
So
here's what I'm thinking about in Brooklyn. There's a couple of things going on here, right? So if you want to be on Narrative Street, right? I don't know if this is of interest to you,
mhm.
but Kevin Durant is one of the he's listen. There are three guys. Well, I mean at least two, but three guys that rate to have like the highest points, I suppose. Actually, Durant projects to have like 4 points more than the next guy.
Mhm.
So if I come with a reason why he's not going to succeed, that's like a pretty big deal. I don't know if you follow this, but he basically came out and tweeted or quoted that the rest of the starting lineup is garbage for the Nets.
Yeah, and that's what he does all the time.
Well,
I stopped following him because he's so nuts, but I probably should jump back on. He is like a I don't know how to it's like a teenager or something. He's just so emotional up and down and he says all stuff like this all the time.
there's like no variation where they just like keep the ball from him, right?
No.
Okay,
Um
I'm just asking.
yeah, I think I mean I wish it wasn't such an obvious play for whatever reason. He always destroys Portland, like always historically just has massacred Portland.
Okay.
Um
That that
but
that that yeah.
the one thing that stands out to me is that Ben Simmons' projection is off.
Yeah. Well, let's talk
Um,
about that. So so
yeah,
so so it's Ben Simmons, and the thing is that I think you have to talk about Ben Simmons in the same breath as kind of Nick Claxton, sort of,
right.
because he could kind of play the five, right? Ben Simmons. I think they played together in the last game a little bit. I don't know, but I don't have Ben Simmons projecting like for much, but
Right.
but you'd like to think that he's got upside from that, right? I mean, like you'd like to think that, no?
Well, here's what I'll say. They got absolutely smoked the other night. So throw away the 20 minutes, throw
Yeah.
away the previous, even the three. I really think this they're treat this like a chance to start over, which I think Sacramento was supposed to be, but they just got killed too much. This game, they like the fact that they're only 2.5 point underdogs is kind of hilarious. It's sort of like the ridiculous fact that the Warriors, who are 0-7 on the road, were favored in Phoenix last night. Like, it made no sense whatsoever. Even without Chris Paul, it made no sense. Of course, they got smoked. Um, I don't see any reason why they should be favored and they should be considered this close in this game. But the thing about Simmons is, first of all, I don't think there's anything that says that he or Claxton has to play here. He or Claxton they have to rotate minutes. I don't think they have to split them. I understand they tried to do that. I have no belief that that's going to be the case going forward. And I just am not going to believe a team that's this in flux and just this bad and struggling and everything. They're going to keep trying out new things, which is going to include some Ben Simmons point guard minutes at some point, real point guard minutes. So I'm not worried about that personally. Like I'm not treating Claxton, and I could be wrong tonight, but I don't think I'm wrong in the long run with thinking about it this way. That I really do. I have no reason to think they can't share the court. I don't care that who cares that they don't shoot as well. Also, it really depends on what Portland does with Nurkic, because one thing Portland's been doing is going with this small lineup that's been deadly for them. So Nurkic, I would say on the other side, Nurkic is either going to put up like 50 or like 20 tonight. you know, um, they like this small lineup. It's been successful for them. They can play Grant at the 5, and this is the kind of matchup they could do it. At the same time, wouldn't they like to have Nurkic just dominate these guys on the other end? You know what I mean? So it's sort of like which way does it go? I'm leaning towards the side of playing Simmons and Claxton at the moment, because I don't think anyone will do that, and that's one of my weird things. But I also don't think anyone's playing Simmons in general So maybe that's enough just to get a little bit off of the norm. And
They
go ahead, Steve.
they've been pretty cautious recently with Nurkic. They've been playing him just like a few minutes to start each quarter, and when they have to, they put him in for more. He had a run earlier in the season where he was playing more minutes, but he might be hurt. I don't know what.
I'm telling you right now, it's the small ball lineup. I don't even think this is a question.
Right. No. What I was going to say though is that to make that work, I think that it would help for Winslow to be available for Portland.
Yeah.
I think he's questionable. So I think that's an interesting piece to this. So if Winslow is available, they're more likely to play a small ball lineup, which again that filters down to what the Nets can do also, right?
Right.
So
go ahead.
No, I'm sorry.
No, it's my fault. I was going to throw out that also Eubanks has been getting an obscene amount of run. So it's not all been small, but they like what's happening with you when Eubanks is on the court. And he's another guy.
I wouldn't play Eubanks if Winslow were in though.
I mean, he's playing like 30 minutes a game.
Okay.
Which is kind of crazy, to be honest with you. He projects every night for 12 fantasy points. He put up 22. He played 33 minutes the other night, 33 minutes the game before that. And the other ones were some were without Nurkic. But he hasn't been less than 16 minutes in a very long time. He's 3,900. We don't have a whole lot of value. I can get behind the idea of a weird Eubanks play. So that's sort of my theory of this game is I'm going to play Durant in all my lineups tonight, probably.
Okay.
I'm going to play Ben Simmons, and I'm going to play Drew Eubanks. Because those are my best ways of getting different on the whole slate. If you want to know the truth.
Well, what about other stuff? What about Dame? You don't think he's a contender today?
It's fine. He's really not the focal. Like it's not the same Dame usage that we used to see at all.
Right.
There's moments where you just get Simons to take over, and sure, he could definitely get there. There's no question about it. We know that he's awesome, and he can always put up 55, 60. But I'm having a hard time getting he and Durant in together. If I did, I have to play guys like Eubanks. And I'm just siding with the Josh Hart and Drew Eubanks are my favorite plays on Portland.
Okay.
I don't mind Lillard, Simon. I don't mind any of the other guys. I also think that if you're playing, a bunch of lineups, like Nurkic would be the guy who should be a tournament play, but is getting like 15% ownership probably. And I just can't figure out which way they're going to go with this game. Now he might start off and put up 20 something in the first quarter. So it's really hard to know because it is such a good matchup for Nurkic, but they've just been siding with this smaller or Eubanks lineups, and they've been really good with it. So to me, that's how you get different. All the other guys are like, I just have everybody else as fine. Simons is fine. Hart I actually really like because the less Nurkic is on the court, the more Hart is going to rebound, including even if Eubanks is there.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm sort of not really on to most of the rest of Portland. If Winslow's out, I might have to relook at some things because I think he gets enough minutes to take away from some things. But I really think as of right now, that's what I'm doing. And then I'm playing. I like a lot of guys on Brooklyn. I like Claxton. I like Royce O'Neal. I like Durant. I like Seth Curry, and I like Ben Simmons. The fact that Ben Simmons is going to be unowned is going to be why I play him on a 3-game slate.
Yeah, I like the I like the Ben Simmons play. And weirdly, again, I think that he probably would do better in that small ball lineup for Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you play Simmons without Nurkic or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that makes some bizarre sense.
Yeah.
All right,
you also have a high turnover team, and we've got Slick is saying here in chat, Josh has been terrible. Who cares? I don't. That doesn't mean anything to me. It's not the way my brain works. I don't care if a guy goes 0 for 9 shooting and I'm going to go, I'm not going to play this guy because he went 0 for 9. In fact, that's more of a reason to play him, if anything. So I don't care that he's been terrible. He's to me my favorite Portland play as of right now. Doesn't mean you need to play him or anything. If you don't like him, don't play him. But I happen to like the Hart, and then the 3 guys from Brooklyn, and just hope this game stays close.
Now let's talk about the juicy game. Let's talk about the Sacramento game. May as well.
Sacramento's going to win this game by 25 points, I think.
Okay.
That's my take.
What's the total here? Like 250? I mean, like this is. I mean, no one's going to play any defense in this game.
Yeah, and the Kings just light up everybody. So I don't see why San Antonio should be able to form a challenge, but sure, it's possible. I think Sabonis is. I think. I mean, it's the usual guys, right? Sabonis and Fox are in great spots. Terrence Davis just went nuts and is probably going to be really high owned. Kind of hard not to like him a little bit, but maybe there's another route, and maybe the route is going with a lesser owned Malik Monk, Kevin Herter, even Trey Lyles against his former team. And then you get the Harrison Barnes. Harrison Barnes is I think Harrison Barnes is probably my favorite play because of the way I'm building and hoping that Brooklyn Portland game stays close. And it's a lot has to do with ownership, by the way. If you want to know the best cash game plays, we're not talking about them. At least I'm not talking about them. I'm just talking about the guys who I like to fill in my lineups. And to me, Harrison Barnes fits in perfectly, and I will be all over that. Keegan Murray is doubtful, which is why Terrence Davis is showing up such a good play. Maybe get creative if you're not going to do the things that I said from the other game. Maybe play Davion Mitchell, Malik Monk, Trey Lyles. Those type of guys would be your ways of getting different.
Do you think that that Davis would get the start over Monk or Lyles today?
Davis would get the start over.
Do you think Davis gets a start? I guess I'm asking you.
Oh yeah, I mean he just put up like 700 fantasy points.
Yeah, I don't think that's clear.
I don't care who starts personally, so it doesn't.
Well, that's the question, right? So if he does not start,
if he doesn't start, he's a better play.
Well, because again, like there's still only like I basically have only 7 or 8, actually 9 projected guys on the whole team, and Me Too doesn't exist, and not really. And Davion Mitchell obviously could get there for a little bit, but it's going to be between I think Monk and Davis. You know what I mean? I think you probably want to play one of them. But like you said, you save 1,000 with Davis. I don't like the recency bias though for Davis. But if he's coming off the bench, I think that helps.
Yeah, I think he's a good. I mean, he's such a good play either way that if he's off the bench, at least we get that lower ownership. It's like the Gafford the other night. Instead of getting him at 70%, maybe we get him at 15%.
Or the Trey Jones too.
Yeah. Trey Jones is my favorite play in this game, even though I'm having a hard time seeing how San Antonio keeps it close. Everybody else is just a play for me. I don't have any of them standing out particularly. So I have Trey Jones as my priority guy. And I have my other one is Harrison Barnes as of right now to maybe get off of he's still going to be pretty chalky, Harrison Barnes, but he'll be much less owned than Terrence Davis will be at a similar price.
I'm steamed at Harrison Barnes. I'm not playing him. I'm mad at him. So
everybody's always mad at him in DFS, but he's been pretty good.
You know what? I was mad because he teased me. He scored 22 fantasy points in the first half when I needed him for all the cheese, and then he literally didn't get a touch for 6 minutes on the court.
That's what this is the Harrison Barnes experience.
It is.
At least Keegan Murray's not there to blur it out, though. Like
that is true. I right now, I mean, I happen to have Josh Richardson as the best point per dollar player in San Antonio.
Yep.
But you can play anybody. I mean, Trey Jones, I guess, is really my favorite play, and then Keldon Johnson seems expensive at 7,400, but I don't know. This whole game is just Stack City. You know what I mean? Like it's 5 points higher total than the Brooklyn game, and at 100 points higher than the Clipper game. And there's going to be no defense played probably in either the first 2 games, if you want to know the truth. But
yeah, I have thoughts on the Josh Richardson thing. I think the better move is to play Sohan. Sohan's a much better play, lower ownership. Basically, like not a whole lot of difference in it flutters for Richardson with his usage rate. It's sort of all over the map here. His highest scoring fantasy point game of the season was his lowest usage game of the season. So very hard to figure out what the hell goes on in San Antonio sometimes when you try to look at the advanced numbers. But I just believe in Sohan. I think that they're going to play him minutes as long as the game is reasonably close. I think he's getting you 20 fantasy points almost all the time. And I think that we're going to start seeing those 30 and 40s, and I want to get ahead of the field on Sohan. So I'm playing Sohan ahead of and at much lower ownership than Josh Richardson. I might end up with a little Josh Richardson too, but I personally like the Sohan play quite a bit, given the ownership and everything else. We still don't know about McDermott in this one either. He would be another guy worth taking a stab at.
I don't want you really want to play him.
So my reason for playing him is that there's a lot of trade rumors about them trading, him in a package, because he's a capable enough scorer. Like when he's on the court, I don't want to play him, but like we have a 3-game slate out. If I'm going to get a guy at 3,200 who can put up 20 plus fantasy points, I'm going to have to, not that he will, just that he could. I'm going to have to at least consider him.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a great play. The guys who I'd prioritize are Sohan and Trey Jones, and then on the other side, Fox and Sabonis are both really good, and I think that Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter as the slightly lower owned plays, and then the super chalky Terrence Davis is probably reasonable chalk. I'm just trying to find any way I can to avoid it. But if you play Sohan and you don't play Terrence Davis, I just don't see a lot of people doing that. I mean, they're both 4,300. Terrence Davis projects for like 8 more fantasy points than Sohan does. Not really, actually. He only projects for a few more fantasy points, but he's projected to be 50% owned as opposed to 10% owned. It just seems like a great spot to take advantage of the Sohan thing.
Playing Terrence Davis just goes against my very fiber. I'm playing him. I can't do it.
Well, there you go. But then there you go. Like you play Sohan instead, 150 ownership.
Yeah.
And this is real sheets. I mean, look, this is your projections and SaberSim, and you've got Terrence Davis and Sohan, and they're projected. Let's see what Sohan's projected at.
20. I mean, like not much behind. I mean,
they're like within a point, and there is a 5 times ownership difference.
Yeah, it's easy.
It's an easy play. It doesn't matter if we're right. We're going to be right in the long run on those ones.
What do you
I like that a little bit.
So Detroit against the Clippers. It's a low total game, but there's a couple of dynamics here. I mean, first of all, with Cade remaining out, you have it's still the Jaden Ivey show. Jaden Ivey, I think he scored like 2 fantasy points in the first half and like 40 in the second.
Yeah.
In his last game, so he still kind of is the man over there. And then they're also going to be starting. I didn't even know this guy was still in the league, but they got Marvin Bagley, who they.
Oh no, they went out. This is a real thing for them. They went out. Yeah. They wanted Bagley. They made it very clear that they're big on Bagley going forward. They want him to be at least. They wanted to give him a chance that he never really got because of injuries and a lot of other things in Sacramento. And this is a guy who was the number 2 pick ahead of Luka. He's still only 25 years old, and could be good still. So I don't think Bagley's like a nothing thing.
Yeah. So there's that. I think that's a decent play. None of these Detroit guys are going to be projecting as well as some of the guys from the other games. That's one thing. Like Killian Hayes and Sadiq Bey. I mean, they look okay if this was the only game, right? Mm-hmm. They just don't project as well as some of these other plays. Obviously, what could be interesting, I mean, for sure, obviously, is if Paul George is somehow out, because he is questionable. And the other thing is that for the Clippers is that I believe that Luke Kennard is either out or at least doubtful or wildly questionable. I forget where he was at, but that definitely opens up stuff. It doesn't open up stuff on a 15-game slate, but it opens up stuff on a 3-game slate. The other thing I would mention is that you have both Reggie Jackson and John Wall. Again, this is not, these aren't the greatest, but especially with Kennard out, maybe the two of them get in together. Maybe that's possible. See who starts. Maybe Terrence Mann gets a start at 3,800. So instead of playing that other, Doug McDermott, for example, you could play maybe Terrence Mann. Oh yeah, Luke Kennard, I have him as out.
Yeah, he's out.
So someone's gotta do something.
Well, none of the Clippers are projecting to get much ownership, which is interesting. You don't have anybody at 20% or higher, which is just kind of interesting. And obviously,
Wall's like 17. That's it.
Yeah, and Reggie Jackson. So my answer to this is I like John Wall better. He's a better player. All the things. I'll take Reggie Jackson in a game against his former team.
I forgot about that.
For 4,700. I know it's not in Detroit, but look, we're looking for anything we can here. I'll just take the lower ownership on Reggie Jackson, and that's the way I'll side with everything. If Paul George is out, I think you're stacking the Clippers.
Yeah.
You're playing, I mean, through everybody. Zubac, Powell, Wall, Jackson, Morris, Wall, Jackson probably being the priorities. Maybe not all together, but like you're playing two of those three, I think. And hopefully we know about Paul George. My guess is that he plays based on the spread, but it's hard to know because they'd be like 9-point favorites probably anyway against Detroit. Detroit is showing up with some ownership, and I don't really like it. I'm a fan. Bless you. I'm a fan of my favorite Detroit plays, and you know what? You've talked me into I've talked myself into liking this slate because I'm liking all the low owned plays. I love Jalen Duran.
Ooh,
4,100. This kid is really something. Bagley foul trouble happens. Boom, he's in.
Yeah.
You know, the game turns into a blowout. Their offense is struggling. Whatever's happening, they can't guard the rim. Jalen Duran is in. He plays like 19 minutes most games. He could get into the 20s, and he's a really good fantasy point per minute producer. So he's yet another one of my weird low owned plays off the bench. Not all of them off the bench, but he's another one that you play him, and who's going to play him over Terrence Davis? You know what I mean? It's just not going to happen. This guy is really, really talented, and he can go out and get 3 or 4 blocks. He can go out and get double doubles. They just don't let it. He just doesn't play enough yet. They're just sort of losing on purpose at the same time, building their young guys and giving them just enough minutes. But Jalen Duran is a guy who's on my list for the get weird plays. I don't think that I totally disagree about what you're saying about Bagley not being a center and they shouldn't force it. Pretty much in the modern NBA, most teams don't really have centers there. So guarding Zubac, who's actually been a good center, you know, I don't think that I don't think that that's even relevant. Like that Bagley's not a true center. It is weird that he's only center eligible. I'll say that, but they aren't. In all fairness, they only are playing him at center at least. At least that's at least more accurate than some of these other teams. Wall's usage has been super high and Jackson's been super low, but we don't. Yeah, that's true. Really hard not to know what to say to that, because that is a fact. But in all fairness, like Jackson's usage actually hasn't been. He had a 33% usage game the other day. He had a 26% usage game the other day. He's just not making any shots. He's had a couple games where he's hit some shots, but mostly his usage has actually been trending in the right direction. Wall's had a really high usage because he's coming off the bench and he's getting the non-Paul George minutes. If Paul George is out, they're both going to get plenty of usage. All right, should we switch over to football? Because I think just to recap my guy, I like the Simmons, Duran, Sohan, the super low owned guys that no one's, and then I can just play them with chalk. And you know what? That's how you win on a small slate. You get a little weird with it.
Yeah, we could talk about football. So I guess I'll start with football. The main point today is Randall Cobb. So Randall Cobb is actually playing, and he is $200. So he is probably going to be, I would guess, 50% owned that minimum. That's my guess. And that's question, I guess, number one. I don't think it's question number one, but question number one, I guess, what do you think of the game and all that stuff? But he's a play that's just kind of hard to. It's impossible to ignore.
The projections are bizarre with him that he's projected to be 23% on SaberSim. Like he should be projected to be in the 50s.
I know.
The only question is, do you need the rest of the savings? I guess is the reason.
It helps. It helps.
You think so?
I mean, I built some lineups, and it just helps. You know,
I like my original build. I like Lazard as the captain. I think that people shy away from him, and they focus more on the other receivers from Green Bay. What are we looking at captain wise ownership? Rodgers and Jones, the chalk. Actually, Lazard getting up to 7%. Interesting.
Yeah, I got of my 30, and I'm doing 30 lineups. I have a full. I have what is it? I have 4 of them with Lazard at captain. So that's legit.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty. I think he's going to end up with some ownership more than I maybe initially thought. I really like Treylon Burks. That's my my get weird captain.
I got two. I got two with Burks in the captain as well.
Okay, I like that because
Yeah.
they're starting to look for him a little bit. He's a first round pick for them with a quarterback who actually will occasionally throw the ball against a defense that's going to try and stack the box. I think that's pretty interesting. So
Yeah.
if you're not playing Derrick Henry, I would say you really want to play Treylon Burks. If you are playing Derrick Henry, which you probably are, I think you still want to play Treylon Burks. So that's sort of what I'm doing. My initial build, I haven't changed anything except for I thought about using both Tennessee running backs, and I think I'm going to come off of the Hilliard thing. The only problem is I kind of like Green Bay in this game, and I think that passing, getting the passing work coming back with Hilliard is certainly a possibility. So I want to keep an open mind to it. Maybe I'm better just leaving 3,000 on the table and playing Cobb. Like
Right.
Cobb probably outscores Hilliard most of the time here, but Hilliard at no ownership was hard for me to completely overlook. Can you play Lazard? Here's a question I have for you, Sheets. What do you think about playing Lazard without playing Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, I never have any problem with that in Showdown.
Okay. Yeah, why not?
I mean, he can get yards without touchdowns, and he can get, you know what I mean? This is not like going to be that high scoring a game. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
You're not going to need 30 out of your wide receivers on the slate.
Right.
I don't think.
True. All right, let's see. Few people popping questions in and thoughts.
I got a couple of guys, by the way. I got the one. I'm gonna say Hoodoo because I'm sure people are playing him. I got not the Koloko, however you pronounce the guy's name. The Okinawa. No, Okonkwo. Guy from
what about Okongwu?
Not Okonkwo. Guy from Tennessee. Crap.
Oh,
Okonkwo.
Yeah, Okongwu is the center.
No, Okonkwo. He's kind of a sort of tight end. So I have like one with him. What other guys haven't I heard of? No, nobody really. I do have some Packers defense laying around. I have some Crosby laying around. I have a decent amount of Crosby actually. But I got a bunch of the Hilliard.
Mm-hmm.
For Tennessee.
Yeah, that's what I got a bunch of. That's what my initial build had, and then I started looking at some things. But maybe I shouldn't have because I like my original build a little bit. Would be really nice to have another sweat like I did Monday without even knowing it till the last minute. That thing almost came through.
Right. Yeah.
And that's just the overpaying. It was the play that to get you there is that guy you overpay for seems a little bit off, or you get the right captain thing. I think the idea of just like the captain ownership is going to go so heavily to Henry, Jones, and Rodgers.
Yeah.
I just think it's really smart to do anything else. AJ Dillon.
I'll tell you, I got a Packers in the captain. I got a Crosby in the captain. I got stuff. I got a C. Watson in the captain.
What about Randall Cobb?
I did not. I did. I got a Randall Cobb in the captain. Dude, well, I'll tell you something else. I actually have 2 Randall Cobbs. No, actually, I got more than that. I got 4 Randall Cobbs in the captain. And one of them, how about this? I got a Randall Cobb in the captain, and also that lineup leaves 3,300 on the table.
That's my favorite part about it. I was going to say, if you play him as captain, you probably want to leave 1,000 or so on the table.
Yeah.
I think that's the right way to go about it.
Because most people that'll play Cobb in the captain, they'll say, okay, so now I can play everything. You know?
They'll play all those things. But if you skip the right guys, like I've got it right now with Henry, Rodgers, Jones, and Tannehill, which is what everyone's going to do.
Right.
So maybe you change 2 of those guys out and you leave a couple thousand on the table. That I really like. I really, really like that.
Yeah.
How about that? That actually works out perfectly if you do something a little different. 700 may not be enough too. Ugh. That's going to be this one's definitely getting duped, but I have it in my single entry, so I'm okay with the dupes on the big one.
I don't suppose you have any Jeff Swaim in the captain lineups, do you?
No. Um, Dunbar says Packers win tonight. Rodgers shreds them. Rodgers hasn't shredded anybody this season. Literally has not had one shredding type of game. Not even a good game. I don't think he's thrown for 300 yards this year. He hasn't.
I
He
will
scored
tell you
20
this.
fantasy points once. I don't think Rodgers is shredding anybody.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. The Swaim and the captain lineups gives you all the leverage against the Cobb and the captain lineups.
It is interesting. I was gonna say you could play them together, but you really can't. Like then you're leaving like 10,000 on the table.
But think about it this way, right? So if Swaim outscores Cobb, then like all those Cobb and the captain lineups that could fill out the whole salary, whatever. If you have Swaim instead of Cobb, you're like basically the nuts.
Right.
Sort of.
Dunbar saying that on Sunday, Rodgers shredded the Cowboys. I just want to point out, Rodgers was 14 for 20 for 220 yards. I wrote 290, but 220 yards with a fumble lost. He had 3 touchdowns, but I would hardly call that a shredding game. He's 14 for 20, for Christ's sake. It's the NFL. 20 passing attempts. Who is this guy? He's like the guy who Malika, whatever, the guy who's the other quarterback for Tennessee. 14 for 20, 220 yards is shredding. Boy, oh boy, every quarterback. In that case, Baker Mayfield is a superstar.
Right.
All right, let's see. I think that it is interesting though how narratives work, Sheets, because everybody thinks that, oh, the Green Bay had this massive performance and Rodgers is back, and I'm like, they ran the ball all over the Cowboys, okay, in a weird game. It's not. Rodgers played well for the game. To call that shredding, I would just say that's not even. That's like a below average game for most quarterbacks. Now the 3 touchdowns, sure, but when you have, what was the one 2-yarder?
Right.
I don't know. I don't care. It's a decent game. It's like you're acting like it's a Hall of Fame performance here, Dunbar. Come on, man. We know Rodgers has not been good all year long, and 14 for 20 managing the game. He did a nice. I don't know who's the best quarterback manager we have in the game. He did a nice Tannehill impression when Tannehill was at his worst.
Okay.
Yeah, the Titans have a terrible passing game, but you think you're not getting anything different by playing Aaron Rodgers. Perception means a lot to people. Aaron Rodgers will be one of the 3 most owned players and captains tonight, without a doubt. So there's no advantage to trying to say, oh, he's going to kill them. Like, it doesn't do any good. I just like poking. I always like Dunbar. I always like getting into arguments with him. He's a good guy. So I always like to joke with him. But I think that there's some ideas. We come up with some things to do. I really like the Treylon Burks play. I think I might use him as a captain in one lineup. I just want to get ahead on these young guys, man, and take a shot, Yeah. I believe this kid's talented, and he hasn't had a chance to really play with a quarterback, and they run the ball so much. And if they're down, they're going to need somebody to do something for them. Rodgers captains with Lazard and Jones is absolutely not different. Sheets, do you agree with that?
Rodgers captain with who?
Lazard Jones and Aaron Jones. That's like
you'd have to play like Coloco and
yeah, that's about as chalky as you get.
You'd have to play Coloco and Swaim together in that lineup.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. That's chalky. Everybody's on the Tennessee side. Joanne's coming in. I love seeing Joanne in here for the. She doesn't do the basketball stuff, but she's always here. She's very sweet, and she's got some nice golf takes and some nice football thoughts every now and then. So always good to see Joanne in here. Rich B coming in with the Rodgers sucks. I'm going to throw Jeff Swaim into lineup just because you said this. It's not actually a bad play. If we didn't have what's it called, he would be the other guy, right?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
It's showdown, man. Nothing's a bad play.
Yeah. I have to thank thankfully I was watching The Godfather on Monday, because that would have been a pretty tough live thing to watch. It really would have been, because you need one play. That's it. 10 yards and a 6-way chop for the 500K. So that would.
But would the defense thing have killed you, or would have gotten you there?
The defense thing. Without the defense thing, I win another. Instead of winning $3,500, I win like 30,000.
Without the defensive thing.
Okay. Without the defensive touchdown. Right. But if they get one more playoff, basically anything Jalen Hurts does to separate him from
okay.
Terry McLaurin. And even if they'll give him a little 10-yard play, then I tie for first, possibly.
Oh, okay.
So that was the part that was a little bit tricky. That was rough. Yeah, I like the Packers slightly, and I don't know why I like the Packers tonight. I really don't. I don't have a good reason for it. I think that this is a lousy football team. I think Aaron Rodgers is a lunatic, and it's cost him his, everything that we used to. I used to love this guy. He just became a lunatic, and these guys, every time they become lunatics and start going on talking about conspiracy theories, it just seems like their careers always go downhill. And Aaron Rodgers is certainly no exception to that. He's basically been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's probably in the bottom 10 this year of quarterbacks in the NFL, which is kind of hard to believe that actually happened. But he's probably better in real life than that. He just looked really terrible. All right, Matthew Stafford practiced in full Thursday. Okay. I've got a show with Rhodey, or a recording with Rhodey in 5 minutes, so I might have to go and send Rhodey this. Rhodey went under for some sort of surgery today, and he's
really
still coming to play. He's coming to do the show anyway.
Well, I told him, I said, listen, better get out of there quickly, whatever.
I spent, no joke, like 3 hours this afternoon too, like on NFL plays and everything before they announced the move to Detroit. And now it's all out the window because that game is going to be the game to target, I think.
Which one?
The what's it called? The Bills game.
Where's that game going to be?
In Detroit. Went from having horrible weather and all this stuff.
What's the total now?
It already jumped 6 points, I think.
Is it like 48?
48 and a half, I think.
It's amazing.
It'll probably be at 50 soon.
Are they going to let the Bills fans go? Who's going to the game?
I don't know, but they'll find. I mean, at least the NFL. They'll always.
How many people do you think will end up at that game? That's an interesting.
They'll sell out 100%.
Absolutely not.
You don't think the entire city of Buffalo will go there?
No, the entire city of Buffalo isn't going anywhere.
Buffalo travels, man.
Yeah, but not 70,000 people. You know what I mean? Like I would say that I don't know what the stadium holds, but I would say they get no more than 35,000 people.
Well, what if the stadium only holds 40? Like then we're close.
Well, it's the Lions. It's a Silverdome, wherever the hell they play, right? I mean,
it's got to be like 65,000 more.
Yeah, right. There's no way that they're they probably said that you can go for free if you want, or you can get a credit or something. I don't know. It's an interesting question what they did with the Bills things, with the Bills ticket holders.
It is interesting. I wonder, because I will bet you there's a lot of Bills fans there. That's my guess. But I don't know. I mean, look, I'm from LA. So
Bills tickets in Detroit. I want to read this. It says, well, they're selling them online. Let's see. The Bills will provide information with those who have tickets. Hold on, it says decision will move done in the consultation. Details on tickets will be announced shortly. Game will be 1:00. Okay.
It's not a bad football game, by the way. It's like not a bad one to be at. Like I would go to that game. If that game was moved to Los Angeles, I would absolutely be willing to take a shot. I don't get to watch Josh Allen play that much.
Yeah.
Why not?
Existing ticket holders. Okay, here it is. Ready? Here we go. Existing ticket holders for Bills Browns just received an email shortly about refunds coming for the scheduled games. Tickets on sale for tomorrow for Detroit. Season ticket holders will have priority. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Makes sense.
So refunds, and then they can rebuy them.
Yeah. All right. Rhodey's blowing me up, so that I have to go. I have to go with him.
All right.
And record my
enjoy. And I will. I'll be probably back around. I'll be back to update projections for sure. Like at 9:30. Yeah.
Okay. I'll try to jump on if I can later. I've got also a recording with Goldie after Rhodey, so see how long that goes.
All right. And
all right. Good luck to all you guys.
Wait, hold on. Are you doing a site call too, or no?
We're doing a site call for a half hour in between.
What time is that going to be?
7:30.
Yeah, it's never
probably not going to make
it. All right. Good luck, man.
All right. Good luck, buddy.